for Gruden. I think that, when you look at the entirety of his career, he's got the identical records with Tampa Bay that he does with the Raiders, which is 57 and 55, if I remember right off the top of my head. He won a Super Bowl, and people will often say that, he won a Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's team. Well, yeah, but Bill Callahan took a team that was Jon Gruden's team to that same Super Bowl. So I think that argument could fall on either side. And I think that if Jon Gruden stays with the Raiders, I think that if the Tuck rule doesn't happen, you're talking about hasn't been, at least in our era of football, no bigger momentum shift in the trajectory of two organizations on the field than that one single play. So I think that for where he's at now, with his record and with those two blips on the radar, one under Al Davis's guidance and then one when he took over Tony Dungy's team, he's a 500 football coach. He's a very entertaining human being. He's a very, gregarious, funny guy. Like, he's great in an interview and he's great in sound bites and all that kind of stuff. Knock on wood, you're with me and all that. And Frank Caliendo impressions and all that. I love everything about Jon Gruden except his current win-loss record. So I think that a lot of fans are starting to turn, if they haven't completely turned already, to the idea that, look, this is now we need to see results. And what other team in the NFL gets 4 years of no playoff spots and doesn't fire their head coach? That doesn't happen. Now, you can make the argument that the Raiders are building for a long-term franchise turnaround, that they're not trying to do a one and done like the Eagles or something like that. They're trying to build for long-term success. That's fair. I'll embrace that point of that folks try to make. But at the end of the day, though, it's still at some point we have to see them start to translate into results on the field, put more numbers in the left column than you are putting in the right column. And I think that it's highly critical for Jon Gruden to do that this year, because his legacy is going to start to get defined. Like, John Madden was all those things that Gruden is. He was the big personality, the big TV presence, all those kinds of things. Oh yeah, and he was the winningest freaking head football coach in the time in which he coached, and certainly still to this day, I think percentage-wise for the Raiders. And he had a Super Bowl and a whole bunch of freaking AFC championships, not championships, but championship appearances to go on his resume. So there was a lot of clout that Madden brought to that. At this point with Jon Gruden, like, he needs more. Like, he's got to put some more bona fides down, man. Otherwise, he's going to start losing credibility.
Yeah, for these next few, again, I love hearing everything you say, but we're an hour into the show. Let's give some quick...
so go fast. This is Mikey's nice way of saying, shut the hell up, Murph. Say it, give me a one-line answer.
No, KIS. Keep it simple.
Okay. All right, go.
So my opinion on Jon Gruden, the state of Jon Gruden at this moment is he's feeling the pressure. He's definitely feeling the pressure, but he knows it's his team. Mark Davis still has faith in him. And he is improving, so we got to give him that much. But the NFL is taking notice, and unfortunately, some of the predictions with Gruden being a head coach and his free agents, his players that he picked up, whatever, they're not panning out as good as he thought, and I'm sure it's irking him, to say the least. So some Raider fans that were high on Gruden are now definitely starting to become a little bit sour. So that'll bring me into Mike Mayock. I do believe that Mike Mayock is doing his best. I do believe that Gruden probably makes most of the decisions in drafts and in free agency. But I believe this season that Mayock and Gruden finally listened to people like Gus Edwards. Gus Bradley, the new defensive coordinator, in picking some draft picks, when in previous seasons, I'll be honest, I don't think Mayock and Gruden probably went outside the room. But I think they finally did this year for a couple of picks. I can't prove it, but I think they did, so that shows progression. But Mike Mayock is definitely a possible fall guy if things don't pan out in that situation. What are your thoughts on Mike Mayock?
Yeah, I think, I think that Mike Mayock being on the hot seat is more of a fan speculation type thing. But yeah, certainly, like, at some point you do have to produce results. I still don't feel like we're far enough out yet to fairly assign success or failure to Mike Mayock. I think that we've got to give him a little bit more runway on that. And again, all it takes is one draft class or a few players here and there to be, that you hit a home run on, and all of a sudden the narrative changes really, really fast. So I think that it's important because I think Mayock carries legacy as well behind this, being that he came out of the booth. He was a former player in the NFL and was a hell of a TV personality and a great, sidekick to Rich Eisen and all the combine coverage and all that. Like, I loved Mayock in the booth, man. He was great. And so when the Raiders took him out of the booth and put him in the front office, I thought it was a fabulous move. So you're talking about taking the man's, he was a draft expert and a player evaluating expert. And so now he's taking the test. So he's going to prove whether he was, accurate and worth all that expertise that was assigned to him. Now we're going to see it in real life and see how it plays out in real life. So I think there's, a lot of legacy riding on the team, and Mayock certainly is one of them.
Derek Carr.
I said it at the top, man. Oldest quarterback not named Ryan Fitzpatrick to not win a playoff or not start a playoff game. Well, clearly not his fault because Trent Cole's big ass rolled up on his ankle and broke his leg. So otherwise that wouldn't be true. But bottom line is it still is. While I think it's low-hanging fruit in the path of least resistance to just point at the quarterback and go, it's that guy's fault. Quarterbacks get more of the credit than they deserve, and they get more of the blame than they deserve. You're talking about the ultimate team sport where you got 11 people on either side of the ball. And I think that the idea that the Raiders haven't been successful in the postseason to this point is all Derek's fault, I think is it's a lazy narrative. But that said, still, when you're 30 years old and you've been a quarterback as long as you have, are you doing things on the field that are elevating the players around you? Are you making those players better? When you look at Matt Stafford, very similar career path to what Derek Carr is on the road with. No one ever looked at the Lions teams and said, oh, it was Matt's fault that we're losing, because Matt elevated the players that he had around them. I think it would be it's very critical this year for Derek to prove that he is able to lift up those around him. Everybody hates to talk about him, but Tom Brady, he makes his receivers better. He throws them open, right? You want to see Derek take those types of strides now at 30 years old. Make everybody around you better, Derek, because then regardless of what the team's success is, you won't be the constant scapegoat that you are now.
Yeah, very well said. Again, his legacy is on the line, and I couldn't agree more with that statement. The only thing I want to say about Derek Carr is, again, I believe he's the greatest Raider quarterback to play for this team. And you guys can say that, well, what about this quarterback or that quarterback? I just mean, let's look at the stats. Stats are the NFL. He's the greatest statistical Raider quarterback in the history, and I'm proud of that. I'm not proud that he has a losing record as a quarterback. I'm not proud of the fact that he doesn't go to playoffs and all that other stuff. And I agree with you. I don't think he makes players better. I mean, he's a Phillip Rivers. That's what his career's looking like as of now. Like a good quarterback with a lot of passion, but it's just not happening. And I want him to get out of that vein. And here's where I'm going to say this. I believe this year is going to be the biggest year for Derek Carr. Not because they added a better defense or this or that. All the excuses they give Derek Carr for not winning, I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say, look back to the Tom Brady storyline that came out a few months back or last year before he signed with Tampa Bay. Tom Brady went to an event in Vegas last year. He met with Mark Davis, Jon Gruden at a UFC event. There's pictures of him at the event meeting with Mark Davis and Jon Gruden. Then he became a Tampa Bay Buck, and just this past offseason, an article came out where Tom Brady was quoted saying, "You're going to stick with that MFer?" So which quarterback was he talking about when he was looking for teams? That quote came out. You're going to stick with that MFer?
Yeah, it never came out who it was, huh?
Correct. So, again, I'm a conspiracy person. I like putting puzzle pieces together. There's pictures of him with Mayock and Gruden when he was looking for a team. And now the quote came out, you're going to stick with that MFer. I think that was Jon Gruden and Mayock and Mark Davis's way of telling Tom Brady, we were interested, we wanted to have a meeting with you, but we're going to stick with Derek Carr. They made a decision after that night to give their faith in Derek Carr. So I believe that quote is for Derek Carr. It could be anybody else. But that proves, if that's the truth, that proves Gruden is all in on Carr. They live next to each other. He's the Raider quarterback. And I believe Derek Carr knows the truth as well. And I believe he finally feels relieved that he's not going to be traded or whatever, that he is Gruden's quarterback. And I think he's going to have a fantastic year.
Can I throw one last little caveat in there? Something that I thought was interesting, Mikey, that, the Raiders have been doing some restructuring here in order to make room for, like KJ Wright and whatnot. And they've been doing some things where they're,
We're going to have
guaranteeing
$55 million next year under the cap.
Absolutely. And so they've been converting a lot of this money this year into signing bonuses to create space. Well, don't you know, one of the easiest contracts that the Raiders could rework is Derek Carr. But they chose not to do that. And I think that's interesting because, again, what's the answer? Follow the money. Well, the money right now says Derek Carr's up after next year. That's it. The end. And so that was curious to me. Like the idea that they didn't, add on a couple years to his contract, convert some money into a signing bonus. All of a sudden, the Raiders got an extra $20 million in the hole. Like it would be a very easy, workable thing for them. But they've chosen not to do that. They've been messing with the smaller contracts with Kwiatkowski, and doing that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Another year, though. They got another year, and they're going to be $55 million under the cap, according to the experts, next year. Man. So I think, again, this is the year. We're going to
have Devontae Adams signing money next year is what we're going to have, hopefully. Packers don't franchise him.
This is the year. But I believe Derek Carr will get an extension next year, or they're just going to flat out let him play on the last year deal, and then we'll think about it from there.
Well, maybe that's why they haven't reworked it, because they have plans to redo it for next year, and he already knows that. And I think that's a very fair counterpoint, Mikey. I totally agree with you there. That would make a lot of sense too, because it's an easy thing for the Raiders to do, and it
would be cheaper if they were both willing to do it right now. You get it? It would be a little bit cheaper. But if the Raiders go to the playoffs, Derek Carr plays as well as he did last year, go to the playoffs, I'm telling you, they lost a few $1 million. He is going to sign the extension, but they lost a few $1 million because of that.
You're right. Derek might be banking on it. Heck, we don't know. See, this is the kind of stuff we as fans don't know. Heck, they might have offered him an extension. And Derek goes, yeah, I'll wait. Oh, well, let's do it next year instead. Let's see how, you know what I mean? Because you're right. If he wins a playoff game or two, all of a sudden his leverage goes through the roof.
100%. It's going to be interesting, off-season to say the least.
Yeah.
So the last question is, I put out a poll, and I said, who is on the hot sheet, in your opinion, for our Vegas Raiders? Mike Mayock, Derek Carr, Coach Jon Gruden, or owner Mark Davis? Move your head a little bit to the right or left. Maybe the other way. So the leading one is Jon Gruden is on the hot seat, according to 222 votes. Who is on the hot seat, like officially, meaning from your perspective? I'm sorry, in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for lack of a better term, I would say it's Derek Carr. I mean, Gruden's not going anywhere. You 222 people that voted for that.
You can still be on the hot seat, even though you're not fired. Like, that doesn't mean you'll be fired. It just means you're on the hot seat.
Who's got the most pressure on them? It's Derek Carr. Derek Carr is the one that has to take the field and deal with the boo birds and everything else. It's on Derek. I don't think anybody on this, look, no one's going anywhere. These four guys are going to be in the same four positions come start of next year too. But I think as terms of again, I started this whole segment off saying that there's legacy for all four of these guys. So that doesn't diminish, but I think if I had to rank them, I would go with Derek because he's the one that actually has to put the football in his hands and go out there and do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Mark Davis. Again, I just the way he's running this team, there's a lot of precarious situations, whether it be hiring Jon Gruden, this or that. That's in my opinion. So I'm gonna go with, I believe Mark Davis is on the hot seat because he's possibly losing a lot of Raider Nation, moving from Oakland. This just a lot of stuff. But the truth is, it's Mike Mayock. I believe it's Mike Mayock. If we don't make the playoffs, I believe Mike Mayock will be the fall guy. He might possibly be fired after next year. But that's just my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Fair.